Children wearing swimsuits and carrying towels walk toward a swimming pool. Text: California Department of Water Resources presents California water story. Child dips foot into pool.
The story of California water use began a long time ago, long before we had swimming pools and hot showers, before we had cities and processing plants and acres of orchards.
Agricultural machine shakes tree trunk, and nuts fall to the ground. Native American men on horseback.
Hundreds of years ago, small tribes of Indians were scattered across the land. These native Californians had to live close to a water source to survive. Planting and irrigating crops was done on a limited basis.
Native American women harvest crops.
Europeans came to California in 1542, but it wasn't until the late 1700s that they began moving water great distances. Spanish missionaries built a 6-mile irrigation ditch from the San Diego River to the San Diego Mission. Other missions in California soon began to irrigate their lands, too.
Paintings of men on horseback.
Rancheros, settlers, and farmers followed. They diverted streams, dug wells, and built dams to maintain water supplies during the dry season.
Men pan for gold.
In 1849, waves of gold miners poured into California. Flumes, water wheels, and aqueducts were soon scattered throughout the Sierra Nevada foothills. For a short time, the roar of hydraulic mining echoed across canyons, washing away entire mountainsides. Silt and debris were carried downstream, filling in river channels and causing more frequent flooding of valley land.
Flooded town street.
Farmers in the valleys had levees built to protect their lands, but the silting and the floods continued. Farmers and communities along the rivers were angry. They took the miners to court. 1884. The dumping of debris into streams and rivers was prohibited. For most hydraulic mining operations, it was the end of an era.
Rain falls on body of water.
California has always had cycles of wet years followed by years of drought. In the 1870s, a severe drought caused the death of thousands of sheep and cattle in Southern California and forced many ranchers out of business. In the early 1900s, another drought and a growing population spurred the city of Los Angeles to look outside of its basin and buy land and water rights in the Owens Valley, 250 miles away.
Horse-drawn wagons pull giant pipes and equipment.
Built amid controversy and violence, the Los Angeles Aqueduct is designed to carry water from the Owens Valley to the city of Los Angeles.
Men cheer as water flows through aqueduct.
Southern California continued to prosper, and they needed more water. In the 1930s, work began on the Colorado River Aqueduct, which brings water to much of Southern California, from the Los Angeles Basin to San Diego.
Men ride on small train cars through underground tunnel. Men use picks to dig in tunnel. Man climbs down a hill. Man walks on top of large cement pipe. Surveyors measure land. Men use jackhammers. Men build aqueduct structures. Men carry equipment. Trucks carrying equipment travel down dusty road. Men saw large planks. Water flows past completed aqueduct.
Construction also began in the 1930s on the All-American Canal. Colorado River water flows through the canal to the Imperial and Coachella valleys. Irrigated since the early 1900s, this land, once an arid desert, now supplies fresh produce to the entire nation.
Aerial view of San Francisco.
Up north, the city of San Francisco was thriving and, by the 1920s, needed additional water supplies. They built a dam on the Tuolumne River in Yosemite National Park. This controversial project flooded the scenic Hetch Hetchy Valley.
Valley filled with water.
Water from this reservoir flows through the Hetch Hetchy Aqueduct across the Central Valley to fill reservoirs in the Bay Area.
Cars drive on busy 1920s street.
East Bay cities also went outside their area for water supplies. and built a reservoir on the McCullummy River. The McCullummy Aqueduct runs from the reservoir through the Central Valley and the southern Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. Many water projects were built because of groundwater overdraft. Hidden beneath the earth are areas where water collects, filling in the spaces between particles of soil and rocks. Since the 1800s, Californians have drilled wells to tap these groundwater aquifers scattered throughout the state. Rain, snowmelt, and streams replace what is pumped out. But there are areas where water is pumped out faster than it can be replaced by nature's cycle. This results in overdraft. The level of groundwater sinks out of reach of the pumps. One of the most dramatic effects of overdraft is subsidence. The sediment layer compresses and the surface of the land drops. Overdraft began occurring in the 1920s and 30s and continues in some areas today. Cities and farms rely on water from their groundwater basins. As the basins are depleted, they need to import water from distant areas. Before the 1920s, water development planning was usually done by local groups to solve local problems. As California grew, it became apparent that water development planning needed to be done on a statewide basis.
Water flows into farmland.
Most of the rich agricultural land is located in the Central Valley.
Map of California.
2/3 of the people live in the comfortable but dry southern part of the state and the San Francisco Bay Area, while 2/3 of California's water supply is in the northern part of the state. Average precipitation across the state ranges from more than 80 inches a year to less than 5. Much of the water from the Cascades and Sierras drains into the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta.
Snow-covered trees.
Rain and snow are seasonal, drenching California in winter and spring, leaving it dry and parched in summer.
Dry, rocky soil.
These seasonal fluctuations, combined with cycles of drought or unusual wetness, make it difficult for California to have a water supply it can depend on all year, every year.
Sunlight sparkles on water.
In the early 1930s, the California Division of Water Resources developed a state water plan. The plan proposed building reservoirs to capture and store water for year-round use in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys. It was known as the Central Valley Project. But due to the Depression in the 30s, the state couldn't sell bonds to build the project. So the Federal Bureau of Reclamation built and operates the Central Valley Project. It supplies water to farms in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys and cities in the Bay Area. The Central Valley Project is a series of dams, reservoirs, canals, and pumping and power plants. Like most water projects in California, it's designed to capture excess water from winter's rain and snow, store it, then move it when and where it's needed.
Cars drive on busy 1960s street.
By 1960, California's population was over 15 million. Recognizing the growing need for water, the California legislature and the voters approved construction of the California State Water Project, to be built and operated by the California Department of Water Resources. This 600-mile-long project is one of the biggest water development programs ever attempted. It stores water in Lake Oroville on the Feather River and distributes it to farms and cities in the Feather River area. Water is also delivered to the San Francisco Bay Area, the San Joaquin Valley, and Southern California. In addition to supplying water, the State Water Project also provides flood control, generates power, replenishes groundwater, and creates opportunities for recreation.
Person rides jet ski. Construction site.
As the 1960s came to an end, the era of intensive dam and aqueduct building was slowing down. California's rapid population growth had, for the moment, slowed as well. Strong concerns were being raised about the effect of California's growth on the environment. In response, state and federal protective laws and regulations were enacted. They established a wild and scenic river system to maintain the natural beauty and ecology of many of the state's watersheds.
Man fishes on riverbank.
Wetlands, once plowed under or filled in by agriculture and urbanization, are being restored and preserved so they benefit plants, birds, fish, and wildlife.
Elk slowly chews plant. Tall, green grass grows from still brown water.
Much environmental concern involves the fragile Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, the most important estuary on the West Coast. Connected to the San Francisco Bay, the Delta is a network of freshwater streams, saltwater channels, and fertile islands.
Aerial view of connecting streams.
Water for 2/3 of California's people is sent through the Delta.
Map of Northern California showing water flowing from 9 points in the central part of the valley into the delta located on the western edge.
Reservoirs in Northern California release water to flow into the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. The water is pumped out of the Delta by State Water Project and Central Valley Project facilities. It's sent to water banks for storage at San Luis Reservoir, the proposed Los Banos Grandes Reservoir, and underground in the Kern Water Bank.
Aerial view of river.
As it's needed, the water is released to local water agencies.
Water flows past tall grass on riverbank.
Pumping water from the Delta changes the natural flow patterns in many Delta channels. During dry periods, it can pull salt water into fresh waterways, adversely affecting water quality and fish.
Map of Delta.
To help overcome these problems, additional Delta pumps will be used in winter, pumping when water flows are highest and the fisheries less impacted.
Pumping machinery. Tall plants sway in the wind. Elk wade through water.
The Suisun Marsh, near the Delta, is one of the largest brackish wetlands in the United States.
Otter glides through water.
To protect and restore this area, the Department of Water Resources has installed salinity control gates. These gates regulate the levels of salt water in the marsh.
Black and white footage of men turning crank to release water. Crowds gather by flowing water.
Years ago, it was assumed that water facilities could be developed indefinitely. But environmental concerns and increased construction costs have changed that assumption. We need to use the water we have as efficiently as possible. One method, water conservation.
Kitchen faucet.
At home, we can use low-flow shower heads, low-flush toilets, wash with less water, and plant landscapes which don't need as much water.
Woman trims hedges.
Businesses and industries can save water too, by planting water-efficient landscaping and reusing water. Agriculture can also conserve water by using a variety of techniques: drip irrigation and CIMMYS, the California Irrigation Management Information System, which estimates the amount of water used by plants each day. These estimates help farmers irrigate without wasting water.
Crowd holds picnic next to pond with a tall fountain.
Another way to conserve water is to reuse it. Reclaimed municipal wastewater now irrigates landscapes, golf courses, crops, and is used in industrial cooling.
Water flows past vertical metal structure.
Stretching out existing water supplies so they are used efficiently can be done by agreements between water agencies. Such agreements helped supply water to the Santa Barbara area during the 1991 drought.
Tractor drives on green field.
Another technique for using water efficiently also emerged during 1991. Water marketing. It worked like this. Some growers agreed to take certain land out of production. The state bought the water that the farmers saved and sold it to cities and growers who needed it.
Water flows through muddy farmland.
There are other innovative methods for improving our water situation. We can actually add to state water supplies by cloud seeding when conditions are right, resulting in increased snow.
Text, Catalina Island.
Turning to the ocean as a source of drinking water, desalination, may be cost-effective for cities along the coast. In 1991, a new municipal desalination plant began operating on Catalina Island.
Tall white tank and a white metal building. Water drips from pipe. Water sprays from sprinkler system. Person rinses dirty plate and sink.
We know that we have to manage our water resources more wisely than ever. The state's water planners must balance population growth with protecting and improving habitat of fish and wildlife.
Aerial view of wetlands. People walk on crowded street.
What lies ahead in the California water story? This story really doesn't have an ending. It changes as California changes. From humble beginnings to sophisticated delivery systems. We may never solve all our water problems, but we will always strive to make them manageable.
Production: Linda Thomas, Maclone Pict, Mark Lambert, George Madsen, Dave Carney, Anna Fong. Graphics: Instructional Media Center, Chico State University. Narrator: Marsh McCandless. Executive Producer: Dave Carney. Stock footage provided by East Bay Municipal Utilities District, Imperial Irrigation District, KCRA-TV, Sacramento, California, Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, Metropolitan Water District, San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, Water Education Foundation. Special thanks, Ohlone Singers. Produced by California Department of Water Resources, State Water Project Contractors. Office of Public Information and Communication.